You're listening to Ernestly Speaking, the only weekly podcast that covers friends, foes, and anything that goes. And now, for your badass host, Ernest Owens. And we're back for another episode of Ernestly Speaking with your host, Ernest Owens, myself. Woo! Oh my goodness. If I told y'all what time I was recording this podcast, if I told you all what my last 12 hours or 24 hours was like, you wouldn't even believe it. Some people are listening to this podcast like, how does he do it? Speaking more of my friend, actually, I think my homegirl, Amanda, who's probably on her way to work this morning listening to this show, and she's going to be like, what happened? So I am recovered from a terrible, I don't know if it was food poisoning. I don't know what it was, but I think it was food poisoning. But basically, I ordered, I'm going to name the place because I need to keep it 100. Well, I am fine. I'm 100% well now. I had to sleep, actually. Rest is important. But I had a horrible food poisoning incident at Coconut Breeze for takeout. I ordered it from, it was Saturday night. I ordered the jerk salmon. And I don't know if it was undercooked or something, but I ate it. And I want to say within a couple of hours, it was just bad. And so I was like, okay, what's going on? Because I never had this experience in like years. I think the last time I had a horrible like food poisoning situation like this was probably when I was like, I think I was 15. And my young brother, who is now the one who goes to Temple, he was little. And I remember where it was at. We was at Chuck E. Cheese. He had his birthday. This is how long this was. This was like a long time ago. We went to Chuck E. Cheese. And I remember me and a friend went and we just ate all this pizza. Just was just eating this pizza up. It was just like good to us. But we had the worst stomach ache like that day. And I remember we were just sitting back to back at the toilet, just going one by one. And I just felt like that was pain. You be having these life threats. I don't know. You just be thinking to yourself, man, I'm never going to eat like this again. I'm going to change my life around. So that's what I thought too. And then I actually went and ate the Easter dinner I should have ate in person. So I did host people over for dinner. It was Amanda and Joe, my bestie Jamarcus, of course, Mr. Johnson, and then my brother from Temple, my youngest brother. So I hosted Easter dinner. It was a fabulous dinner. It was catered. We had prime rib, which was so delicious, a salt and pepper prime rib, scallop Parmesan potatoes, a salmon Wellington, roasted carrots, an asparagus salad, and then Mr. Johnson made a banana pudding, and we had a red velvet nothing bundt cake, like a bundt cake, but the company's called Nothing Bundt Cake, and we had that. Champagne, red wine, and I couldn't eat any of it during the actual festivities because my stomach was saying no, but my mind was telling me yes, but my body was telling me no. It's true, literally. My mind was telling me yes, but my body was telling me no. It's normally the other way around if you know that lyric, but it was just like I couldn't eat anything. So all I was sipping on was like ginger ale, peppermint tea. It was just terrible. And I was feeling so bad because they were eating in my face. It was so bad, like looking at them eat the food in my face was making me nauseous. So I had to go lay down. And then I watched an episode of Succession, but we'll talk about what happened with Succession. But I was just like, bummer. But it was good to have company over. It was nice. I slept really well. And then when I woke up, it was almost like I didn't have anything. I was like, wait, where's that pain, that abdominal pain I was feeling? Nope. Body was feeling better, feeling really, really good. I was like, okay, maybe I can nibble on something. I could. And thank goodness I didn't give all the food away because I finally sinked my teeth into that prime rib. And yeah, maybe it was, maybe 3 a.m, but listen, whatever it earnestly takes. So I am up very early doing this podcast. So you all can be able to listen to it in the morning on Monday for that core 200 that listens very early in the morning when the episode first drops. But I was like, I need to rest. And so I had a really good rest. I slept really well. And yesterday I didn't really do much talking on the phone. I just rested and Easter, I was feeling upbeat, and then all of a sudden my body was telling me no. Oh, but now I feel better. So now I got to text all my friends and be like, I'm okay now, because everybody was all worried about me because they've never seen me like this. But it was wild. It was wild, you know. Shout out to Uber for refunding me the full amount for my food. I think I am definitely going to treat delivery food differently now because that feeling, like I need to have stuff that's like I'm not gonna be doing too much. Like I don't know. I'm saying this now, but I might change up in a couple of months. But as far as the next couple of months go, it's gonna be real solid. Like we gonna do fried, fully cooked. Like we're not doing too much experimental with the delivery because that just was just that feeling was like. I mean, I was thinking my whole life over. I was like, am I gonna go vegan? Like, does this mean no more meat ever again? I just started having all kind of crazy thoughts. I'm happy that, this didn't last too long because, listen, had it been another day of this, I mean, it was only like a 24-hour spell, but if it was another day of this, I would have probably came out this situation as a full vegan. I'm not going to kid you because I was like, this is pain. And it was just pain. It was just like, I don't know how to describe it. It just felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. And I was still sitting with the burn of that punch for like 24 hours. That's what it felt like. But yeah, I mean, I took it easy. I did the brat diet, saltine crackers. Look, the ginger ale thing, y'all, I don't know. That was not doing what it used to do. But let me tell you, coconut water was very helpful. I was drinking a lot of coconut water to stay hydrated. I had broth. I did have the saltine crackers. I did drink some peppermint tea in the evening and laid down. And that, whatever position I was in, just laying down, that just was it for me. I slept. And I just was like, okay, this is the perfect position and everything. And then they had me spending money I need to spend. Like I bought a heating pad, even though it hasn't come in yet. Then I bought me this really nice pedicure machine for my feet. Stuff I wanted to relieve myself. It didn't come in yet, but I'm still keeping the stuff. But nonetheless, I am much, much better. And I feel better. And I'm happy, that I'm starting off the week, on a Monday, chill. I'm not doing any like in-person interaction. I'm just going to be staying home, looking at these lovely flowers we got for Easter and, celebrating. So I threw some shade sidebar about Easter. I said, it's funny how I did not know that I had this many, devout, compassionate Christians in my newsfeed. Any other day, these people are nothing but a child of God or anything but a child of God. But on Easter, people be all with it. He's able. I mean, he's risen, they say. Folks was bad hype on Easter. I mean, I was just like, all of y'all got children, wives that no one told anybody they had, children that we didn't know they had, family photos. It reminds me of the holidays when people do that. You be like, this man act like he's single any other day of the year, but then all of a sudden you seeing kids you never saw in these photos and spouses. Listen, Easter be telling you a lot of things. People like to show up on their Easter. All of a sudden, they some good Christian folk. I mean, look, I had a good time. Christmas, Easter was cool. I'm not the most, as you all know, I'm a devout deist. Look up deism. It's quite interesting. But, it was interesting to just, to be, aware of seeing what people are interested in and what people talk about. But yeah, Easter was quite the time, and Passover, of course, and but I took it easy. I mean, it was just, listen, don't get a stomach ache or any food poison or anything during the holidays because it makes you insufferable as fuck. I was just sitting there just like, they're eating all this good food in front of me and I can't eat anything. I didn't even want it. My appetite was just not there. I was looking at that food like it looks good, but I couldn't touch anything. I was just nauseous. But now I went to eat the food. And let me tell you something about some good leftover food. Easter food. You let it soak in the seasoning. I don't know. For whatever reason, the prime rib made me feel, I was like, wow, that's some good ass prime rib. I got some leftover. But it was good, y'all. It was good. It was good. Even though I ate it by myself at my little table this early morning, I was like, I don't care. I finally got the taste of the food. So that happened. Now, last week, I was on my way to Boston on a flight, and I just want to say Northeastern University was everything. I'm a little biased, but that had to be one of my favorite book tour sites. Just being able to go. It was packed. The love was there. I was a part of this entire program kicking off this great event. This organization, so Northeastern has a new Center for Communication, Media Innovation, and Social Change, which is a part of their College of Arts, Media and Design. And they had a kickoff and launch, and I was the keynote speaker. And the event was called Unruly Tools in the Fight for Our Freedom. And, I talked about, how we resist attempts to roll back our rights, freedoms, and civil liberties. And there was a great book signing, of course, The Case for Cancel Culture, which is still on people's minds, still in the conversation. We're getting close to 2 months since the book has come out, and the energy is still there and the fever is still there. And it was just a lovely event. I was just so grateful to come back to Boston. The first time I was in Boston, I was there for Harvard Bookstore. And then to come back to Northeastern, do a whole keynote and, this paid speaking engagement, do all that just felt like everything. The love was there. Boston's just been good to me. I went to a great restaurant called Earl's. So the way they did this, first of all, it was lovely. They had me at the Hilton Hotel. I had a really nice, lovely suite. Then I had the event itself, which everyone came on time. I packed out the room. It was a nice audience of young journalists in the communications field and media professionals. And then I had a really great book signing. Everybody bought a book, which was dope. Signed some copies, took pictures, and it was a nice little middle reception. And then we had like an after party / dinner at a place called Earl's Kitchen. And this was in downtown Boston. Listen, if you haven't been there and you're going to Boston, you're looking for something fun and different, Earl's was everything. Really fabulous time at Earl's. We had, oh my goodness, so much incredible food. It was a really good time. I had like the steak and sushi entree, which was really different. They just had good food across the board, and the cocktails were phenomenal. So I highly recommend Earl's if you're in Boston, but it was really good food for sure. Also this week, me and my fave, Josh Eats Philly, we went to Urban Farmer, which I haven't been to in ever, like in years. I think I went for a lunch a couple years ago. Urban Farmer just always felt like the very safe, super safe restaurant that you go with your parents or something like that. Like it's like a very safe restaurant where it's it's not bad at all, but it's not like the best thing ever. Well, that has changed. I went to the new opening, not the new opening, but they're having some new changes. Their chef has a brand new menu. They got a brand new event dining space. And so Josh and I experimented with it. There was a couple other foodies we went out with, and we tried some of the new menu items. Their seafood situation was impeccable. They have a whole new char-boiled oysters. They had the mussels. Was it mussels or clams? One of them. But they had a really good seafood situation that they're getting hype about. And then I saw their new menu, what they're doing with their steaks now. They made a tomahawk and sliced it. Some of y'all saw those videos, but it was lit. They had a bourbon station with, I think it was Maker's Mark whiskey they were promoting. They made some special Southern Peach, old fashioned. It was a lot of lights, camera, action, but the food was incredible, and it was definitely a new vibe than the Urban Farmer I was used to. And I was really impressed with their whole menu situation, their private event space. It's got me thinking about what I want to do for my birthday. I got some ideas. It's got me thinking about what I want to do for my birthday. Will I be there later this year? Maybe. Who knows? It might change, but nowadays I'm doing big birthday things. So now I'm always looking at what I want to throw for my birthday, who I want to invite, how I want to do it. So it's always fun. So my birthday is definitely, in October, but I like to plan early, cause venues be filling up. I want to do different stuff. So I have ideas. But that food was really good. I went to go see Into the Woods, which I'm personally excited about. Into the Woods was everything. I saw at the Miller Theater, which is the old Meridian Theater. Laura and I went together, actually. And it's a Kimmel production on that theater row. Now, this is different from the Into the Woods I saw at the Arden, which was more experimental, which was also good. But I have to say, I loved this version, this rendition. This was really good. They brought the Broadway cast who just came back for the revival that was on Broadway. Some of those actors who was at the Broadway production was at the Philadelphia production because they're on a national tour. And it was great. It was only in town for like a week, but let me tell you something. It was phenomenal. It was good. I'm. It's funny because now I've seen Into the Woods. I've seen the movie. I have seen the movies what I saw first with Meryl Streep and Chris Pine and all of them. But then I saw the musical early this year at Arden, or was that last year? I think it was last year. And then I saw this rendition, which was phenomenal. Because this cast was diverse. They had the witch was black. And other characters were diverse throughout the film. I mean, throughout the musical, but the Arden one was there was some diversity there, but this one had a black Jack and this one had a black witch. And those are two like very serious principal characters in the musical. But it was great. It was a good time. It was a very good show. I mean, I haven't hollered. I mean, I was just hollering each time they did a music act. The audience was just clapping out loud. I mean, it was just nothing but roars the whole night because they were just killing it. It was a great show. I also supported my good friend Eric Smith. You all saw. He has a new book that he's a part of, like anthology book called First Year Orientation. It just came out this week, and I went to his book event. Eric Smith is a literary agent, but he's also an incredible author who writes a bunch of YA, young adult books. And so this is another one of his great books that just came out. So I went to his book signing in Fishtown, and it was a good old time. And then we went to dinner, him and his lovely wife and another author. We went to Izakaya by Yanga, which, let me say this. I know there's been some interesting stuff going on there because one of the new owners, the top chef that was there, has left. Well, tried the food again. I went when it first opened a couple years ago. And it was good, right? I remember I went to the izakaya, like the downstairs, like private room with the sushi room they had. But this was just the general menu. Yeah, I thought it was good. They have some really good things going on. They had drink specials throughout the night. The food was pretty good. They had nice sushi, nice rolls, really good bowls. The portion sizes were decent. The pricing was really, really surprisingly good. It was not that bad at all. It's good to go with a bunch of friends and eat different things. They had a $65 tasting menu, which was really good because it's hard to get a tasting menu nowadays in town that's under $100. Most tasting menus are around over $100, which is fair because normally they'll give you like several courses, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, several courses. But this was pretty good and reasonable. So was a fan. Really, really did like it. Thought that was dope. Shout out to Eric. So in other great news, my husband made his big announcement, which was our big announcement, but he got accepted to grad school at Johns Hopkins University. We're not relocating before you all start, but he got accepted to their advanced academic program, one of their advanced academic programs in the Krieger School of Arts and Science. He is getting a Master's of Science in Organizational Leadership. And it's remote, so he does not have to go to Baltimore. Not that there's anything wrong with Baltimore. There's good people that come from Baltimore, like, Angel Reese or, my good friend Joe Hamilton. There's great folks from Baltimore, like, Christian Rock. Baltimore has some great folks from their city. I'm not going to be the corny person and say that a really great show called The Wire was filmed there because that seems very cliche. And that's what the Caucasians say. They'll say, oh, there's that show called The Wire. Have you seen The Wire, Ernest? Yes, I've seen The Wire. Yes, we know. But is that the only thing you think of Baltimore is The Wire? So I don't want to be that person. Because Baltimore has other things outside of The Wire, like Joe and Christian and Angel Reese and other great folks that have contributed to the city. Politicians, not so much. But, well, there's Marilyn Mosby. She's y'all still like Marilyn Mosby over there? No. Y'all like her? She was nice when she first came around. No? Okay, we'll find out. Let me know, Baltimore, what y'all think of Marilyn Mosby. But she was good at one point. She was like the. But I might be going to Baltimore for my book, so we'll see. We'll see. I'm working on some things over there. See if I'm going to go. I would like to go, you know. I would love to go, but yes. But yes, so he's getting his master's, which is dope because there'll be two masters in the house. And it's also something funny. We both, he starts in the fall, so I'm excited. And it's remote, so he doesn't have to leave. We're not relocating. Every time I make an announcement, he make an announcement. Every time we do something that's out of Philly, everybody always like, you're leaving us. I knew you was going to leave. It's like, damn, Philly, y'all got like attachment issues. I'm not leaving until I'm leaving. And if I leave, I'll tell you I'm leaving. And there'll be a reason to leave. But we both were like, wow, we can both get our degrees from outside of Philly. Because I didn't want to get, like, we both were talking about this, like, we didn't want to get 2 degrees from the same city. We wanted to mix it up. This organizational leadership degree that he's pursuing is one of the top in the programs that he wants. Like, he wanted a master's. And I was like, what kind of program? He wanted something that's like leadership driven, that's going to elevate him in his career, in a managerial type of sense. And for me, I did communication management at USC, and again, it was remote. I didn't have to leave Philly to do it. But we both talked about that, like saying, like, would it be cool? And we also didn't want to do Ivies. We both were like very big on that. Like, none of us wanted to go back to another Ivy League school. Not that, partially because they don't have any. Most of them don't have remote learning. But second of all, we just felt like the type of people we want to also connect with and broaden our network. Because I feel like the Ivy League circle, once you go for masters or you go for bachelors, it's the same people, y'all. Like, it's the same folks, the same circle of folks. So if you want to broaden your professional network, it's always encouraged for you to go out and get education from another type of tier or network. So like my USC West Coast network, my West Coast connection, that's a whole different group that's not in the same Ivy League bubble that I was in when I got my bachelor's. So that was part of my interest. And I think that was the same for Mr. Johnson, which is like, okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to broaden your network outside? And also not in Philly, because of course we could have went to Temple. Nothing wrong with Temple, of course, but we could have went to Temple. We could have went to other schools and did other things, but we was just like, well, no, because we already know the people. We already have the Philly connections. We already got that. So it's like going to a completely different location or building with a different group of people. And that made a lot of difference, especially for me in the West Coast, because even right now, I'm seeing the residual effects of that program, like the networks, the connection I have in Cali. I wouldn't be in Santa Clara had it not been for my master's degree and the people I met in that program and how that came all together. So you just never know. It's good to mix it up, especially in these types of fields, in this type of era we're in now. So nothing but good things about that. But I want you all to know that next Tuesday, April 18th, you're hearing this first, from 7:30 to 9 o'clock, I will be at Bayou Lounge, which is next to Booker's, with the new owners of Booker's. There's a woman named Cherie Syfax. She's the new owner. She's been getting a lot of press lately. She has a husband named Tracy Syfax. They're a bubbly couple. But she has a book that came out called Second Act, which came out the same day my book came out, actually. She's self-published, but she is doing a big old to-do book launch signing situation on April 18th, which is on a Tuesday. And I will be with her doing it as well. It's going to be a joint event at Bayou Lounge, which she owns Booker's and Bayou Lounge in her big multi-million-dollar deal that she did with Saba, her and her husband did. And so this is going to be a really great book signing. There's going to be a moderated conversation, discussion, and we'll also be signing copies of our books. So if you have been wanting to see me in Philly, you've been wanting an opportunity to meet me in person, to get the book signed, because I know I haven't done any really major Philly book signings. I've done like pop-up things, but something of this magnitude, I will be at Bayou. So listen, some of you have already bought tons of copies, but how many of you all have a signed copy? How many of y'all have a copy from yours truly? How many of y'all wanted to have that in-person experience? Well, we'll both be at Bayou on Tuesday, April 18th in West Philly, Booker's. So if you don't know where Bayou Lounge is, it's around there on Baltimore Avenue. See, there go Baltimore creeping up again. Around 50 something in Baltimore. Just put in Booker's, like you're going to Booker's, and it's right next to the Booker's. So go to Booker's restaurant and bar. See y'all at 7:30. Come through. Come ready to buy a great book. We are doing cash and card. Harriet's is going to be the book distributor. So if y'all know Harriet's, Janine Cook is my girl. So we're going to be working with her. She has, of course, the incredible black woman-owned bookstore, Harriet's, and she also has Ida's in Jersey, which I need to get my ass over to. But Booker's and Harriet's and Ernest and Cherie, we're all doing a great old collaborative event on the 18th. And then also, some of you all know the Mayoral Candace Forum is officially sold out, aka it's at full capacity. I had to sip on my coconut water, but it's at full capacity. But you can watch it. The show is going to air live the following week. I will give you all more details. Initially, it was going to air live, but now we're going to really do a full-on production, which is going to include some good editing and some good work. So the debate is not going to air live. It's going to be packaged, and then it's going to come out the following week. So I'll give you all the official date and time when that will run. But so far, so good on that front. So, and then before I get into the hot topics and things that's been going on, I was back on Piers Morgan Uncensored. A lot of you all saw that, had questions. Listen, Piers Morgan was out. They had a substitute host. She brought me on. It was a great conversation, interesting enough. And, listen, the check cleared and so did they. So it was fun to come back on. And it was a respectful talk. I really owned the conversation. And, it was interesting. I mean, the woman who replaced Piers that day, honestly, she should be hosting the show permanently. But, there's a reason why people like Piers Morgan. So, he's going to have his... he's going to have his show. But it's funny how you can come back on the show and in less than a month, because they know that I come with the ratings. That's how it's interesting. Media is interesting, because you would think all that talk, this is his show. This man blocked me from Twitter, y'all. Felt all types of ways. But at the end of the day, his producers called me back. And I went back on just to make a point, to say, look at that. Somebody's obsessed. But listen, it's something about British media. They love me over there in the UK. Every time I come on the UK, I've been on more British, European TV shows. Sweden, I was on a Swedish, Norwegian podcast lately. I mean, it's just European media eat me up. I'm actually making more TV appearances on like British and European channels than I actually am in the United States. I don't go on local TV that much. One, I think because some of these outlets, they pay, versus American shows, they don't really pay. They just kind of say, oh, you should be happy that you're on this show this early in the morning or this late in the night, and they can just change and waste your time, and there's no kill fee. Anyway, it's interesting. Most of these cable shows, they don't pay for people appearances. I mean, they have their correspondents that they rotate and pay. But guests and experts and things, they don't. And I mean, it's not that they should every time, but it's just that it's a very different vibe, It's a very different vibe. And I don't, cable news in America is just like, I mean, everyone's, it's just, I would say that the pandemic has definitely done a number on cable news shows. Like, I don't watch them the same anymore. I don't find them as credible as I used to. It's so much fluff and bullshit, to be honest, on air. There's a lot of fluff and bullshit, personally, on these shows. I mean, recently the whole Trump saga of the indictment, all the drama behind it, they spent days upon days, like a whole week, over analyzing that thing with all this bad information and misinformation, only for the indictment to happen. And then they're like, jump on that and made a saga. And it's like, don't y'all get tired of that? Like, that consistent shuffling of ideas. I mean, I don't know, just bullshitting. I don't know. So, But on Piers, I was talking yet again about Harry and Meghan, because he's obsessed. They're so obsessed with them. And this time the conversation is about Harry's visa. Like, he admitted to drug use back in the day. Should this impact his visa? Some far-right group is asking to see his visa papers, asking the United States to see it, to see if, there was a double standard or whatnot. And they were asking, me on the show, what did I think about it? I was just like, this is a bunch of rubbish, which me saying it was rubbish made headlines across the country. across various international publications, because I was just saying that, this is rubbish. Like, he doesn't pose a threat to the United States. All of this controversy around the coronation with the king, of course, King Charles is having a coronation and all the drama because Biden is not going, which no sitting president in modern era has actually went to a coronation. But of course, they're always trying to make a scandal out of something. And it just seemed like just desperate, like they were reaching for straws. It was like, there's no merit based to a lot of this stuff. It's just a bunch of, this is happening. What do you think? It was that kind of banter, and I was just like, well, not that I speak for all Americans, but I mean, could you say that they're overexposed? Absolutely, yeah. Harry and Meghan are getting a lot of overexposure. That's true, but the whole, oh my goodness, that this is scandal and people are outraged. No one's outraged about them like that. No one is talking about them like that. Maybe some Fox News people, but like most people really don't care. I mean, most people buying the book Spare, it's nighttime talk, but it's not like the era to which they were like the front and center of American lives. That's kind of past at this point. I think now it's just like, okay, a casual, documentary and book reading now and then, but not the same level of obsessiveness that we had prior. Absolutely not. So that's happened. But in other news that's been going on, so Trump finally got indicted, which was its own bored. That's the best way I could describe it. I was bored. It was a moment, I guess, but for whatever reason, I was not just gun-ho obsessed. So, I've been reading a lot about this. I mean, the indictment feels like, it's a slap on the wrist, in my opinion. It's when it got down to it, he was charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is the black, DA, who's the first in history to legally indict this man after his presidency. And he's from Harlem. So this is a full circle moment for New York City, because if you remember the drama in NYC, you remember that Trump, had put out a target, years ago, decades ago, actually, in the 90s, or earlier than that, for the Central Park Five. They're now the exonerated Five. But he put a target on their back, really was running, big tough on crime, guy trying to come after these young, innocent black men, black and brown men. But to see him now be in this position is a lot. There's all these pictures of him showing up to court during his arraignment. All this happened last week. There's 34 separate instances of false business entry or record. Many of these are, found in his business ledgers. Some of them are invoices and checks that are false. But he does have felony charges, Class E instead of misdemeanors. And basically Bragg has to convince the jury that all of the criminal record keeping was done to cover up some larger crime, which is what, the DA has to prove. But there's just a lot of things that people need to take in consideration. People wanted me to figure this out. What we have to know is that, Trump was not charged with any of the underlying crimes, So, at the press conference, Alvin Bragg had said that, that this scheme included conspiracy. And he said stuff about New York campaign finance violations and tax evasion that he believed provided the motive for Trump to do all these nefarious things with his business records. However, he does not charge him with those underlying crimes. There's none of this. There's no conspiracy crimes, y'all. There's no campaign finance charges, no tax evasion. It's just all about falsifying business records 34 times. And, that's really the main focus of this indictment. It's fine. It's good. It's good that, Alvin Bragg did that. But, it's kind of like, as a good writer, Eli Mistel, said in The Nation, when he wrote about this, his piece was called Trump's Indictment is a Slap on the Wrist, but accountability has to start somewhere. He wrote this really great piece that broke this down. But, he pretty much described this as the speeding ticket of uh, of crimes. It's not like the big, huge Trump is going down moment that we all thought. Not to say that there's other investigations that could lead to that, because this does open the door. Now he's finally criminally charged. He's now indicted. So this is a major moment, for sure. However, it's not the moment we all thought it was. And so it does feel a little underwhelming. He's got many other legal woes. And honestly, the problem here is that he's probably not going to get the full prosecution and sentencing. I think by the time the election is over, 2024. So I don't know. Will he still run as an indicted person? I mean, he's a very shameless dude. So I don't think he's going to stop running. If anything, he's going to drive it up. But it's gonna be really interesting, because it's like, not that I'm thinking he's going to get reelected, but like, okay, he gets reelected, and while he's president again, he's going to court. I mean, I don't foresee it, but you got Ron DeSantis, who's clearly running. You got Nikki, Haley, and some other people running, but it just seems like this race is not over. I thought it was, but it seems like, until there's some other major shoe droppings, it looks like we just, it's here and it's gone. For what it's worth, we'll see. But, in other news, on the other side of the White House, Biden, Dr. Jill Biden found herself in some controversy this week. So, there's been all this Louisiana State University, LSU, all this drama around this women's championship. Honestly, it's like been a week of just consistent, in these times, people really show you who they are. They show you their politics. They show you what kind of ideals they have about women, specifically Black women. I mean, you just see a lot of these interesting double standards and conversations that take place. And from where I'm sitting, it's the same type of misogynoir that we have gotten familiar with for years. So there's been a lot of misogynistic, anti-Black statements said by Angel Reese, conversations about, her attitude. Is she too cocky? Is she too confident? She has too much dip on her chip, as someone had said on Twitter. And it all stems from her basically being like, look, I'm not going to go, to, the White House after Dr. Joe Biden had offered to invite the losing team, which was Iowa, to attend, in addition to LSU, who won. And it created a nasty situation because, there was all this conversation about being classy and classless and all of this rhetoric, which I often tell people I personally don't like the rhetoric of referring to, Black women or anyone as classy, because it oftentimes is used towards Black women in a way that leads to the opposite effect of what someone is trying to say. So, for example, if you call a Black woman classless, is that another way of saying ghetto? Like, I never really hear people call white women classy, like the way they call Michelle Obama or Oprah classy. And I think a lot of those words have connotations to them. Terms like difficult to work with or aggressive. Like, this type of rhetoric and language carries other subtle meanings. And it's just something I've noticed a lot, and whatnot. So when, First Lady Joe Biden had decided to invite both, I did talk about it in a piece I did for the Daily Beast, just saying, why is this the case? Like, why is this, this is the double standard. And it's also a microaggression because, the question would have been, if Iowa would have won, would they would have invited LSU? Is this their way of trying to, bridge the divide? Okay, so a white girl got her feelings hurt, right? So now all of a sudden you're trying to consider her feelings at the expense of LSU's. But the white girl Caitlin, who dealt with this, she handled it pretty well. She did not lean into that, Becky syndrome of trying to, she avoided the context of what the far right was trying to do, which make her, pit her against this black girl. She really, defended Angel Reese and just stood by Angel Reese. Did not fall into the behavior because she knew what was being happening, how this blew up nationally and how they were going to pit these two girls against each other. And she didn't fall for it. She didn't take the bait. And I think that's something that should be said and noted, that part of the reason why this, kind of died down to a larger extent is because, this was a situation where, Caitlin Clark is her name. She understood that she did the "you can't see me" gesture too. Angel Reese. This is all about two girls using facial, hand gestures and things. It's like, what are we doing here? But Angel Reese, though, I mean, she's just a G. She was from the very jump was like, I'm not going, and she just articulated her feelings and how she felt. And we need to see more of that. See people just say no and not care how it comes out, not, placate to whiteness. And it was very disappointing to see certain influencers and people online that are oftentimes speaking on behalf and defending black women take the stance of telling this girl to, consider this, consider that. And it's like, well, sometimes people don't want to play the game. Sometimes people don't want to placate. Sometimes it's just as simple as, look, I said what I said and I meant it. So shout out to Angel Reese. That's more people need to, could you imagine that kind of fearlessness? Makes me think that the future is in good hands, to be honest. But yeah. So I want to talk about the Tennessee Three. This is a group that just is the epitome of courage. It's very rare that you see stuff like this happen. What's been going on? A lot of people have been seeing different things. And so let me just put it in context. So the Tennessee House of Representatives expelled two Democratic lawmakers because these people were pushing for gun control, and they led these demonstrations on the House floor. So the Republicans were really upset, and they accused three of them of bringing, quote, disorder and dishonor to the House. They expelled these lawmakers while they were elected. That is very rare. You never see this happen in state legislations. People threatened it, but it never happened. But last Thursday, they made the vote to do so. And so they tried to put three up, but they chose to expel two black representatives. But the third Democrat was a white woman who didn't get done. So the three Democratic representatives is Justin Jones, Justin Pearson, and Gloria Johnson, who, by the way, she follows me on Twitter. Shout out to Gloria Johnson. So she's the white woman, but the two black men are Justin Jones and Justin Pearson. Their protest came days after, the 6 people, including 3 children, were killed in that school shooting in Nashville at Covenant School. And so during that protest, Justin Jones had a sign that said, "Protect kids, not guns." And he led a lot of chants, no action, no peace, and the Tennessee Three, they represent a fifth, like 200,000 constituents in Tennessee. And so it was interesting because 2 out of 3 of the Tennessee Three, right, were in trouble. Jones and Johnson were stripped of their committee assignments, even though Pearson never served on the committee. But Republicans have a supermajority of that state in Tennessee. And so they pushed to file a resolution to expel the 3 of them for disorderly behavior. The problem is that, it was a lot. When they voted, they did the run-up vote, which is everybody had to say aye, nay, or whatever. Of course, both parties were beefing. The Democrats and Republicans were debating about this. But they decided to take the 2 black men out. And, that day when all this had went down, of course, the 2, interesting enough, this is the telling part. So on Thursday, Jones and Pearson, many people call them the Justins. They were expelled. But Gloria Johnson, who's white, she avoided expulsion by 1 vote. So she didn't get expelled by 1 single vote. 1 white person said no and kept her, which shows you. And she knows what happened. She knows the double standards. She spoke on it. She said something about it. And, interesting enough, what people have to understand is that expulsion votes are exceptionally rare. It doesn't happen often, but pretty much What happens is that people must choose an interim replacement until election can be held. It can prevent it. There's no rules that can prevent, the council from appointing the expelled member back into the House, which apparently there's entrance to do that. So, for example, the vice mayor from Jones's district called a meeting on Monday to begin the process of nominating interim replacement. It takes about 4 weeks. Several council members have already pledged to appoint Jones for the position. But Pearson, it doesn't seem like Pearson's district is going to do the same. Apparently, they're worried about, consequences and retaliation from the state. So a lot is being said. But there are people that are saying that if they choose to run for re-election, there's already people raising money and fundraising for them. They've already got a GoFundMe page for the Tennessee Three, raised $41,000 in 3 days. So, it's a lot going on here. But why this is important to me was that, I look at the gun violence issue in Pennsylvania, really in Philadelphia, and you're not seeing elected officials, right, in our own backyard that's taking these types of bold stances, that's putting their foot down and saying, what, enough's enough, that they're tired of these double standards, that they're tired of seeing, the same old, people putting their foot down and just saying, listen, we can't keep living this way. We can't keep doing these things this way. All of those things matter. And that's something that I've thought about, when these politics are taking place. How often do we say we don't say no, or just say enough's enough and put our lives and bodies on the line? So to see these two black men, to see this white woman take a stand, and to be in solidarity is notable. So just wanted to say that, take notes, Harrisburg. That's all I'm saying. I'm tired of the excuses. Stop blaming the finger on Harrisburg. Stop blaming everybody else. Get some shit done. Move the needle forward. So, want to put that there. One of the things that have been really pissing me off lately is the fact that there's been these, constant conversations about there's been lies. There's a situation that happened recently that involved in Philadelphia. There was that whole scandal, which yet again, cops lie about what happened at the fashion district. Now, there was a narrative that went out because the night I was out, this was probably like last Wednesday, I went out to Urban Farmer, of course, like I said, for dinner. And there was a lot of commotion downtown. It was like a lot of police cars and cop cars. I know what was going on. I was just trying to take my ass over to the Parkway. But when I remember, they were saying that there was a bunch of kids throwing rocks at the police and that police had to shut the area down to look into it. The moment I heard this story, I said, kids are throwing stones at police, black kids? I didn't believe it, y'all. I didn't believe it. I said, well, who's saying this? They said the police are reporting it. I said, well, first of all, where are rocks in Center City? Do we have a bunch of rocks that black kids can throw at cops? I mean, I'm just like, where are the rocks at? See, I'm an old school journalist, even though I'm young. I'm one of the ones who just kind of like like a detective. I like ask simple questions. I said, so apparently you're saying that there was a bunch of black kids outside of Fashion District, which Fashion District, that area, that little plaza area typically is clean as hell. They're outside in massive space, and they're throwing stones at police officers. Where are these stones? Because I don't see any stones where kids could just pick them up. And I don't know any black kids collectively like that who would throw stones at police officers, knowing that police officers have guns. Why would they bring a stone to a gunfight? I just don't understand the logic here. But that was the narrative they was putting out. And initially, Kenny, talked about disorder and disruption, and they were trying to frame them as being disruptive. And the rhetoric has suggested that these kids had did something harmful, that they were, doing something in violence. Well, when the report finally came out, after one officer said one story and another, it all came out that is not what happened, actually. That, in fact, this narrative of throwing stones seemed to not go into the final record because it wasn't true. And so, yet again, we're reminded that police lie. That police will always sit up and play this narrative up, trying to do it. And, only 4 teenagers were issued citations, but the rest of the kids did not. So, the issue was that 4 kids were issued citations based on what happened on Wednesday. But the police officials, apparently had these very dramatic, contrasting versions. And this came from the Philadelphia Inquirer when they reported on this. But, listen, the police inspector, his name is Raymond Evers. He's the one at an afternoon briefing said that some of the teens in the crowd hurled rocks at officers, climbed poles, and jumped on police cruisers, saying the kids were being disorderly. But the department spokesperson, Jasmine Riley, said that wasn't the case and that no property damage had occurred. She even said that the reports they never mentioned any of Evers' allegations. When asked about the conflicting accounts, Evers had told people it's all true. And he told Riley his information came from someone at the scene. Excuse me? So you wasn't there to see it yourself? Interesting. So they asked if he would release body camera footage showing the objects being thrown. Evers said he would review the footage and alert reporters if he saw anything quote unquote juicy. Excuse me? So you didn't even confirm or validate what you were saying. So y'all gonna lie on these kids. You're gonna take somebody's account, but you ain't gonna have the receipts and the proof. So a lot of this was too much, They did say it was chaotic. A 13-year-old boy was carrying an airsoft gun. 3 other teenagers were cited for disorderly conduct. But all these dozens of other kids, were pretty much harmless. Initially, Wednesday night, Kenny had described the crowd as destructive. But then he described him as disruptive. So let me be clear the difference here. It was a change of words based on situation. Initially, he said destructive, which means they destructed something, they broke things, whatever. Then he changed it the next day, which was on Thursday, and said disruptive the behavior is not acceptable. So they went from accusing these kids of destructing things, which is breaking things, like actually creating harm, to disruptive, which is basically simply interrupting. Okay, so disruptive kids, right? Destructive kids, that's another thing, right? So the rhetoric had to change. But what was interesting was that Pastor Carl Day, who, is an interesting guy, which I told you I met him, a week ago and talked, but, he really spent a lot of energy talking about how, kind of really soft promoting the 76ers arena necessity because of what he's describing as the issue with the fashion district. And he did caution against the instinct to vilify the kids, apparently, but was saying that, the gallery used to be there and used to be a popular spot, and that, there's not many spaces for kids to just be kids and hang out away from their parents, is what he was saying. But, it was a lot of other things. I just think that moments like this get politicized over the top without getting into the context. Like, where are the community programs? Where are they? And where are ones that are desirable and fun and actually allow kids to just be, rather than force them to try to do their homework and things? I mean, it's weird because everyone wants to force a certain type of behavior that we're not seeing anywhere else, which is very telling, which is very telling, So just putting it out there. But like I said, cops lie all the time. That's why when people send me police reports, I'm always like hesitant to use them as first base. I'm like, let that shit marinate. Let them get their lie together, because it's not always as black and blue as they make it seem. Or actually as black and white as they make it seem, in my opinion. But here we go. So this episode is going to be a lot about the mayoral stuff, partially because I do think this race is important. We're getting close to a month away, and there's been a lot of tea and a lot of things going on. People have been asking me, Ernest, da-da-da. I mean, it's been stuff like every single day. So I do want to talk about some of the stuff that I've been seeing, some of the stuff that I've been hearing, and the tea. Because there's a lot of tea. A lot of stuff has went down even up until like yesterday, when I was, thinking, okay, I know what I'm going to talk about. And then something big happened. So let me back up to the beginning. Let me start from the top. So first of all, fundraising came out final quarter, final half. People trying to figure out who got the most money. In ranking order, how much money each candidate raised in 2023. This is the numbers, y'all, because we've been referring to what happened in 2022 because we didn't have 2023 numbers. Now we have from January to now. So here's the big numbers, y'all. So overall, Alan Dom is number one. He has $2 million. He has self-fundraised $600,000 or $595,000. Jeff Brown has $800,000, but he has self-raised $1.2 million. Or let me get these numbers correct. I'm sorry. Alan Dom has $2.5 million. He has self-funded $2 million of his own money, and $595,000 is what he self-raised. Jeff Brown has $2 million. He has self-funded $800,000, and he has raised $1.2 million. Helen Gim has raised $767,000 total. There's no self-funding on her end. She didn't pay for anything out of her pocket. Rebecca Reinhardt has raised $642,000, and she did not self-fund anything. And let me be clear about self-fund. Self-fund means that they came out their own account. So Alan Dom is putting more money than he's raising his account. Jeff Brown is raising more money than he's self-funding, but he's also self-funding a great chunk. And Rebecca Reinhardt is 62. Sherelle Parker is 600,000. And then Maria and Derek are at the lower ends. David O, we don't know how much money he's raised. And we don't have any data on Almond Brown because once again, Almond Brown did not file a financial disclosure by last week's deadline. And candidates for office are required to disclose their financial fundraising information and donors by Tuesday night. He did not do that. James DeLeon also did not file fundraising reports this week either that disclose their donors as required. So these people, we don't know their money. We still don't know what Almond Brown is bringing in. We don't know what James DeLeon is doing. There's a part of me that feels like, to some extent, either they're not raising a lot of money or they are purposely trying to hide how much money they're raising because they don't want people to know where the money's coming from, because it could be dark money, it could be whatever. So that's a possibility as well. I just think at this point in the game, for people not to be disclosing their campaign finance reports is it's not a good look. I'll leave it at that. It's not a good look. So as far as numbers go, Jeff Brown is number one in raising the most money. Number two, Helen is number two, and Rebecca Reinhardt is number three. It's a lot of interesting stuff. The super PACs are big. So as far as super PACs go, Rebecca, hasn't really gotten any super PAC money. Helen has. Rebecca's has been independent, 1.4 million. So it's been by her own. Just all her money. No super PACs have been involved in her race. Same for Maria and Derek Green. Sherelle has had super PACs. Gim has had super PACs. Alan Dom has had no super PACs. Jeff Brown has had $2.8 million super PAC money throughout his campaign. That's very telling. And then campaign spending. And then super PAC spending. Alan Dom has spent $5.6 million on his campaign spending without any super PAC spending. Jeff Brown has had $1.1 million spent by super PACs. Even though he has spent 1.6 of his own money. And then Reinhardt has had no super PAC spending. Sherelle has had a good chunk of her advertising spent on super PACs. And Helen Gim has had a large chunk of her money being spent by super PACs. So it's very telling. Now, as far as how much money people have on cash on hand and reserve, the numbers are very telling. Alan Dom has $1.7 million cash on hand in reserve. Helen Gim has $1.4 million. Rebecca Reinhardt has $853 million. Sherelle Parker has $600,000. Jeff Brown has $400,000. Maria has $321,000. Derek Grant has $300,000. So the top three is Alan Dom, Helen Gim, Rebecca Reinhardt. So Jeff has only $400,000 left. Rebecca has twice as much as him. Helen Gim has a good chunk, and Alan Dom's still sitting on some fat money. So it's very telling what's happening with this cash on hand. So Jeff Brown, even though he spent all this money in the beginning, he's a little low in the tank right now. Rebecca has a moderate amount. Sherelle does too. But Helen and Dahmer in the millions it's very telling. So what was interesting was there was a little gaffe that happened on NBC 10. I don't know if anybody saw it. I shared it on social. But they had swapped out Jeff Brown for James DeLeon in the face card. So the face card that's supposed to showcase the people, it was replaced with Jeff Brown's face. With James DeLeon's face. So it was Jeff Brown. The number was accurate. They were showing the top fundraisers, but they had James DeLeon instead of Jeff Brown. Out here swapping out black people. But here's the thing. Jeff Brown wanted to be black so bad. Look what happened. So now here's the juicy parts. So there's been a lot going on with Helen Gim. And Helen Gim supporters, woo, child, they're the worst. They're the worst. I'm sorry, they're the worst. They're the worst. So there's been a lot of things happening with her. As we get closer to the race, I've said that these candidates are boring, some of them, that there needs to be more said. They need to speak up more and talk about the issues more. And throughout the candidates forum, people have been expecting that a lot of the things that her supporters project about her, it's not happening in real time. Allow me to explain. So normally, people are like, oh, Helen Gim's against, she's for rent control. She's against, she wants to do higher taxes. She wants to cut or increase the wage or business or property taxes. So when they asked her, right, does she believe Philadelphia should institute a rent control system? She had once said at a recent forum, this is not a yes or no question for me. Excuse me? Your supporters, they think that you want a rent control system. And that's what you kind of hinted at when you was in city council. So then there was questions of, does she think the city should cut or increase the wage, business, or property taxes? Again, something that she's hinted at while she was in city council. What she says now, I think we need to evolve our tax structure. I call for a 21st century tax commission. This isn't about single taxes. Then there was about the conversation about supervised drug consumption sites, when we talked about the issue on the opioid epidemic to reduce opioids and overdoses, of course. She said in a forum, she said, and she also said in a statement, I will work with communities to both end the open air drug markets and also take action to save the lives of people dying from overdoses. Community buy-in is essential as we build out our efforts on harm reduction and new models for treatment, recovery, and care. Spoken like a true politician. When asked about the 76ers new arena, she said she has skepticism about the viability of a 76ers arena and would rigorously vet the project. But she wouldn't say whether she was for or against it. So it's been clear that she has consistently have skated on her positions and in many ways have purposely chosen not to pick a position. And people are trying to figure out why this is the case. It really shows, her record says something different. You know what I'm saying? She was the only co-sponsor of a 2020 resolution with Kendra Brooks to explore the possibility of creating rent control. She also voted against cuts to the wage and business taxes, saying that the city should prioritize funding for the school district over cuts for large corporations. That's what her record says, okay? The fact that she is now pivoting in this way, some people believe that this is because she's trying to, move more to the center to appeal to centrist voters. I think this is a dumb thing. I think this is going to backfire, and I think it might cost her the election, possibly. Why? Because what I'm seeing in the data with her numbers are not moving, which could be a good thing or a bad thing depending on what's happening with other candidates. But she seems to be plateauing, where the base that she has is the only base she's going to get, and it doesn't seem like she's gaining any momentum or support from other folks. And that's because she has been viewed as a polarizing candidate. And a part of me thinks she's trying to reinvent herself to make herself more palpable to different voters. I just don't think I think it's too late for that, because she has spent 8 years in council being a citywide candidate, being this radical candidate. And I'm not saying it as a derogatory term. Some of the things that she has pushed for, fair wage week, work, labor issues. I want to say that those are very admirable things. So I'm not here to say, oh, she's radical as in the negative context or call her a socialist or anything like that. I'm not in that business. But what I am saying is that she has spent 8 years distinguishing herself as something different. And it's really hard to believe that in these couple of months, she's trying to basically soften and reduce her bold stances that made her the kind of candidate that had the support, that she's had throughout this. She is a strong candidate. I argue that she is definitely someone that people should look at because she could potentially win. A lot of these other candidates don't have a chance in hell, but she does. And so I think in some way for her to pivot in this way, I don't think it's going to help her any. And to be honest, in a crowded race, bolder is better to some degree. You're going to need to stand out. And she seems to, it's been weird. Her campaign has not had the kind of fury and fire. The money's been there. She's raised some money. But a lot of this money we knew was going to come. But the endorsements are just not happening. Like when I'm looking at certain candidates that are doing some unique things, Sherelle Parker is definitely have had a complete 180 in the past month. I'm like, somebody came in, Ryan Boyer came in and resurrected her career because it looked like she was going for the count, but I don't know. I still think there's some factors, but she's definitely becoming the establishment pick. Like when I look at her, I think of the establishment. All these endorsements, Dwight Evans, just all these Black elected officials, Donna Bullock, Morgan Cephas, Curtis Jones, Vincent Hughes. The list goes on. She's established herself officially as the Black candidate. When I was wondering who was the Black candidate in the race, because there were so many other Black candidates, Sherelle has become the Black establishment pick. She is the candidate. She is the one that the establishment wants. She is what the Black political power structures want. There's no question at this point. She is the Black candidate on the ballot. Now, I'm not saying other candidates are not Black. I'm saying that the candidate that the Black leadership is backing is Sherelle Parker, period. They just are. Now, see, the issue is with Sherelle on my end is that Sherelle's being reimagined as this open folk person, but her history of not getting along with a lot of people has been what has created the hindrance. And also, her policing policies, it's just hard pill to swallow. If Sherelle's policies were a little bit more, a little bit more left. It's just some of that stuff is old school policing 101, looking like it's going to take us back to the Rizzo era. And it's hard. People are like, well, why are you not giggly-eyed for Sherelle? Sometimes I'm giggly-eyed for Sherelle. I think that Sherelle, a Black woman being the first mayor of Philadelphia is a historical feat, but I just can't make decisions and vote anymore on what the first is. We do a lot of this, the first is. But, there's got to be something more. So I don't know. I just want to see her talk more about her team, because I'm worried that we're going to get a lot of the same types of coalitions and circles. And I just don't think that that's going to move Philadelphia in the right direction, in my opinion. So how do we wane from that type of support? She's going to have to deal with that question. Helen's question is that how is she going to deal with her inconsistencies? We talk about them on the social level. We talk about the Bobby Heenan stuff, the Union League stuff. All of that stuff is fine. Well, it's not fine, but that's been talked about. But even within her own issues and platforms, she doesn't seem to be amplifying her own issues. It's almost like she wants her fans and her followers to just believe her and take her word on it. But this type of pivoting like this is very telling. And to be honest, it's not surprising because she's had a track record of doing one thing and then about facing the next. So that's interesting. So, there's questions of people who've tried to tell me, who are you endorsing? Because they're shocked that I'm not supporting Helen Gim, which, let me be very clear. I never said I don't support Helen Gim. What I've said is that I've been speaking about how critical Helen Gim's behavior has been and why it's concerning. But to sit up and talk about, to sit around here and talk about, telling me about Alan Dom. Y'all saw what one of those followers told me. Somebody got in my DMs last week. I'm going to read it, what was said. This person said to me, I've been wondering, who are you supporting for mayor? It's been really disappointing to see you shitting on the most progressive option when the main alternative seems to be Alan Dom. the real estate mogul who used his time on council to establish tax abatements that enriched his personal business. Well, first of all, I haven't been shitting on Helen any more different than other people. And I said to this person, for starters, I'm a journalist, so I'm not endorsing any candidate while I'm covering this race. For clarity, I've been critical of various candidates, so to presume Gim is a target is unfair and intellectually dishonest. You don't need to lecture me, a black queer progressive, on Dom. I've written on him as well. I have. Don't play with it. Don't play with me. You know what I'm saying? Like, the issue that I see now in these races, that there's become a sudden amnesia. White fragility kicking in, attacks on the free press, conspiracies that are not existing, just people just not letting people like me do my job. And it's very frustrating at times because there's this narrative of that anytime a black person don't back somebody that they like, or they don't kiss their ass, or they don't yada, 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 then all of a sudden you're being treated in pariah as being othered, or you're being a problem, you're being a threat. It's the anti-blackness for me, and it's subtle. It reminds me of the days of Bernie Sanders when, black folks were undecided about certain candidates, and they would just say, you're voting against your own self-interest. How dare you tell black people it's their own interest? How dare you tell them as a white person? Because essentially white people create this political mess to begin with. And this pitting candidates against candidates. We see this all the time. And I think that honestly, it's disrespectful, it's disgusting. And honestly, none of these candidates deserve any of our loyalty. We have the right to vet them all, to question them all, to challenge them, to be honest. So this Blacks for Gim situation that has come about and it's become interesting and messy, and I've been trying to unpack it because some of this is just Karen behavior and a lot of this is just downright dumb. So let me explain this. So I received in my inbox an email, a forwarded email, that a black woman who sent this to me. She doesn't have any political affiliation. She's a nonprofit. She works in nonprofits. She asked me, did I get one of these emails? And I said, well, she had forwarded what she had received. And it came from a Gmail account called blacksforgim@gmail.com. And it had this logo that said Blacks for Gim. It had Helen Gim in a black leather jacket. I recognized the photo because it came from a Philadelphia Magazine feature story that was done on her a couple years ago. So I do remember that outfit. But it was just interesting that there was like they were sending messages, and there was a number that said call her for the after party or something like that. So I shared just a cutout and said that this race is getting, I think something like these people have lost their mind, something. I never, got into details. I just shared an image from the email. I didn't share the whole email. I just shared a cutout. And of the image of saying, Blacks for Gim and Gim. And there were people who said, were surprised, they were shocked. The campaign quickly contacted me and said that the email was bogus, that they don't have nothing to do with it. And I said, okay. Other people commented and said that the number that was at the bottom that they were saying call for the party wasn't like a real number or something like that. So they said the whole thing was bogus. And then there was people trying to insinuate and question, whether was it a real email at all? Because I didn't share the whole email. I just shared, this bottom signature portion that stood out to me. So what I did following was say, well, actually, this is a real email. And this email has been sent to people. And I'm going to show you all the body of the email, because if it's not real, then whatever is put in this email, whatever I share, shouldn't carry any weight. So the email showed a press release from a woman named Maggie Hart. Maggie Hart is one of the spokespeople for the Helen Gim campaign. It was a press release. The message, the full body message, was a press release inviting people to show up to a rally to support Helen Gim around education or something of that nature. They had the name of the spokesperson, Maggie Hart, and they had a number to contact her. It was a formal press release. Now, what was interesting was that press release, I've received that press release because as a journalist, I get all of the press releases from the candidates when they do something. So what was interesting to me was that this email, right, blacksforgim@gmail.com, that this email, even though they were claiming the signature, the name, the logo was not affiliated to them, it wasn't real, whatever, but the press release was identical. And so I shared it to people to say, well, whoever is doing this has created what appears to be correspondence from the Gims camp. And it was weird to me because it wasn't like the person was trying to insult Gim. They seemed to be a supporter or something in that reign, because they literally was sending official correspondence from the campaign, even though what was being said may or may not have been or it come from them, whatever. So I shared that email to let people know that this didn't fall on my ass. This wasn't random. This wasn't make-believe. That this was actually an email that did get sent out. And if it was not from them, it is what it is. So people were like, oh shit, who the hell doing this and who is sending this? This is a problem. 24 hours later, Maggie Hart, which is Helen Gim's spokeswoman, had got in my DMs 24 hours later and asked me basically to take that tweet down, because she said that that number in that press release was her personal cell phone number, and that she did not want to experience doxing. No, she said she didn't want to experience death threats and whatnot. Let me just start off by saying that personally, that white women do this thing, right, with fragility, where they go to extremes to scare, to intimidate, and to sometimes borderline retaliate against certain people to do things that to what they want. And so they will say things like, oh, I'm getting death threats, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And I'm not saying that may not happen in cases, but they go to these extremes to try to incite fear. So I had asked something along the lines of, well, have you gotten death threats? And she didn't say she got anything behind it, but she's talking about things that happened to her in the past. And I was just kind of like, okay, well, I was saying this is a public press release. It's like, I was a little taken aback. I was like, so this is your personal cell phone number? Because Helen Gim got this much money that you couldn't get a Google number? You couldn't get, I'm not saying that campaigns give people brand new cell phones, but like normally folks will use a Google number or something to not have to connect it. Like, you're running a major American mayoral campaign and you're using your actual personal cell phone number on a very public press release that is being circulated everywhere. But you're telling me to take a tweet down that's going to verify. So then she says, you can do what you want, but I just want you to know you're doxing me. I said, you know what? This is what white women do. And I know what kind of Karen behavior, Freudian slip, Karen behavior this is. So I said to her, and I made it very clear, I said, you know what? I will remove that tweet because I do not want to be accused of doxing anyone, but I will provide an explanation to the public as to how this became the case and provide an explanation. So she was like, oh, you don't have to make a big deal of this. Nah. This is a big deal, because if you're going to accuse me and insinuate that I'm doxing you by not taking the tweet down, then you are making a big deal of it. But I don't take anything down or anything without clarifying, okay? So she initially was like, so then she tried to backpedal and say, well, it's your choice. You can leave it up there if you want. No, Becky. No. We're not going to do that. What we're not going to do is just do like you can leave it up. No. I am going to take it down, because I don't play with white women, and I don't play with white women with fragility and power in some type of way, right? She got a bunch of Helen Gim supporters. Those people have been harassing me. You think she told them to fuck off? No. I said, no, I'm not going to play those games. So I took that tweet down to avoid liability, right? Once somebody tells me something, it's a personal cell phone number, that's what you claiming, I'm not going to play those games. But I clarified and told people that a spokesperson for the Gim campaign, Maggie Hart, told me to remove it because she has a personal cell phone number. And I was just like, I didn't know the Helen Gim campaign, had her people out here using personal cell phone numbers. It was sarcasm. Oh, no, but white people are not sarcastic. They're like, oh, you don't know, people use their personal numbers. Somebody found out. I'm like, y'all don't get it. It's what the point I'm making is that if you are a spokesperson for a mayoral candidate and you're asking journalists to take down a public press release that's been circulating around because you're claiming it's your personal number, don't you see how stupid you sound? Because if there was anybody who wanted to dox you, they could have been doxed you. They could go on the website. They can go anywhere. You can forward the email to anywhere you want to. Or you can have a group like Blacks for Gim take the damn thing and spread it to people that are not even in your orbit. So what are you talking about? In other words, if bad actors were going to be in this situation, I'm not doing anything to make it worse for somebody when it's already public information. It's already out there. Duh. or as my friend would say, "Durr." Like, it's just the dumbest thing ever. So, I put it out, and folks began to realize how delusional these people were. So all of a sudden, the white Helen Gim supporters, because most of the time, 99% of them are white, and they're not, some of them are not even from Philly or gentrifiers or whatever. Oh, they jumped on this like white on rice. Oh, I just think it's wrong to put someone's personal information out. Personal? You mean a fucking public press release, Becky? It's like people were just running with this rhetoric, and eventually my people, okay, came in and shut that shit down and said, listen, it ain't even all that. What we're not going to do is act like there was any news spilled or any new news spilled. And to Maggie Hart, I haven't heard good things about her. I've heard, from different journalists that she can be a little assertive in the way that she tries to get people to cover Helen, which I guess every spokesperson can be to some degree, but apparently she's trying to shape people's stories, allegedly. They say there's some reporters that have told me that, when they interview Gim and they're trying to do their story, she's trying to shape, she oversells and she doesn't overshape or have a hand in how the story is being told and how it's going, to the point that annoys a lot of reporters. Now, she previously worked on Kendra Brooks' campaign. I wonder if that was the same number she used. Just curious. I haven't done my research to confirm nor deny, but it's very telling. Very telling. So, what has happened since, and this is the thing that's the big deal for me, Maria has dropped out the race, y'all. Maria Canellas Sanchez has dropped out of the 2023 Democratic mayoral primary. Maria dropped out, y'all. Maria Mighty, she's dropped out. And I have to say this. I like Maria a lot. I knew it was going to be a struggle for her to run. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. It is sad. It's sad to see this. But we're in the final stretches, y'all. We're in the final stretches. And that's the problem. We're in the final stretches. She's dropping out. She says that, it's due to the obnoxious, obscene amounts of money, she told the Inquirer. She apparently, according to the Inquirer, decides in her bid after last week's campaign finance report showed that there was already $22.2 million in the race with about 6 weeks to go. Yes, a lot of money. And she said she was dropping out because of that. Her base is in the poorest council district. She has no major unions in her corner. She knew fundraising was going to be a difficult challenge, She ended up getting about $800,000 from donors over the last 2 years, which is a respectable number, to be clear. But she couldn't break in. She said she's very concerned about the way the money has been in this race. It's a lot of money. And, now that she's out the race, there are no Latino candidates in the race. But she did say she plans to endorse one of her rivals, but she wants to know what they want to do because she has a platform that's coming out called Agenda Latina. And she's calling for the next mayor to include Latino representation at every level of their administration, improve language access in the city government, and launch a new affordable housing subsidy program. So we're curious to see who's going to take on that mantle, who she's going to endorse. I think it's going to be between Helen Gim and Rebecca Reinhart. Sherelle Parker and Rebecca Reinhart. I don't think she's going to endorse Helen Gim. I think she's going to choose a woman. And I think it's going to be between Rebecca and Sherelle. That's who I think. I don't know for a fact, but that's what I think. But I want to put some other tea out there. Because on Ernestly Speaking, we never just do what the news say. we kind of do some other things here. So here's what I also think played a role in her dropping out the race. And you might only hear this on this podcast. There's a little known detail, a little known fact. She has a husband. Her husband is named Tomas. Her husband, when she resigned and her previous chief of staff, Ketsi, who is the current city council member in her district, who's her successor, took on this role as the council member. Ketsi hired Maria's husband, Tomas, as the chief of staff. Now, that gives him a nice salary. I'm imagining 6 figures. That allows him to be able to get, possible pension and other benefits. Well, recently, Ketsi fired Tomas, which has allegedly has upsetted Maria. Because, look, Maria's running, but she needs some money. She's not rich. But like a husband having a salary, money saving, working. Now that Tomas is out of a job, Maria can't run. She got to get to work. Somebody's got to get to work. I mean, he probably has had a new job by now, but like the fact that this happened. So according to sources close to Ketsi's office and in City Hall, apparently he wasn't doing a good job. He just wasn't being a good chief of staff, apparently, allegedly. And so Ketsi had no other choice but to let him go because it just wasn't working. Well, as a result, that has made Maria upset. And also it's impacted would have definitely played a role. I would argue, in my opinion, playing a role in whether or not she stayed running in the race or not. So there's a lot to consider that probably wasn't considered before, but I just wanted to put that tea on the table. As far as the race, it's now 7 people, which has made my head go in circles because, I have an upcoming candidates forum, and now I was thinking about 2-on-2 in pairs, and now I'm wondering, well, damn, what do I do here with this? What do I do with this information? So, it's down to 7, right? I mean, I know there are other candidates running, James DeLeon, other folks, and people might say, oh, James DeLeon, he should be considered. I mean, no. But it's just interesting. I'm curious to see who else is going to drop out between now and then, because I'm looking at Derek. Derek's not the first to drop out. He hasn't decided to drop out yet. But, you know what I'm saying? It'd be interesting to see how this plays out. It'll be interesting to see, how this plays out. But it is telling. It is telling. I mean, I don't know what Derek has left, because if the final shoe drops on Derek dropping out, that then allows for there to be 6 candidates at that candidates forum. We need to see what happens. Again, we need to see what happens. So, in other news, I saw this interesting report that just came out from the Pew Research Center, and they were showing the demographic profile U.S. journalist who covers each beat. And it's very telling about those numbers. Very, very telling. So the numbers are showing that in general, among U.S. reporting journalists who cover each topic or beat, they said, all reporting journalists, 51% men, 46% women, 76% white, 6% black, 8% Hispanic, 3% Asian. 39% is between 30 and 49 of age. But when they start talking about the beats, and this is when it became interesting, only 6% of black journalists cover crime and law. Only 5% cover the economy and business. Only 7% cover education and family. Only 7% cover entertainment and travel. Only 2% cover environment and energy. Only 5% cover government and politics. Only 5% cover health. Only 8% cover local and state. Only 3% cover science and tech. Only 15% cover social issues and policy. And only 5% cover sports. And this is Black journalists. Those numbers, man. Those numbers. 82% of journalists and 82% of sports coverage is covered by white people. 84% of environmental issues and energy is covered by white people. Most of the beats I named, with the exception of social issues and policy, over 75% or higher are covered by white people covering those beats. I say this because when we talk about politics and we talk about issues impacting Black and brown people, and we talk about the journalists who get a chance to cover certain issues, this is what we mean by a white dominated news structure. That in even the breakdown of particular topics and area, they're largely dominated by white people across the end. Even when you think there's a large number, it shows you that the number in the pivot is driven solely towards white in these beats, that there's no diversity. I'm talking in all of these cases, with the exception of social issues and policy, Black people are under 10% of all the other beats. The only numbers where we're making strides is in social issues and policy. So 15% of Black people cover it, 20% of Hispanic people cover it, and then 5% of Asian people cover it. And then 53% of white people cover social issues and policy. But outside of that category, everything else is under 10%. Even less. So when people talk about having these conversations about diversity and inclusion and, you know, who gets to cover what beat and how, this is what I mean. Food for thought. So on to lighter topics, I suppose. Barbie Mania is here. I'm super excited about this Barbie movie. I thought it was corny, but I'm interested in it. I do have Barbie fever. I did do the meme, the Barbie meme that everyone is like talking about. I did one of them as a Ken doll. And I said, this Ken is a keeper of receipts, because that's exactly what I do. Some people made them, and I don't think they got the joke. Like, they kind of made them a little bit too presumptuous and too serious. I'm like, it's meant to be funny, and you have to find a catchy way to describe what you do, rather than being like, this person is an Oscar winner. No, that's boring. You're supposed to say something silly, like this person slays edges or something. I don't know. I just think some people like miss the point of the joke. But it has been popular. Barbie is coming out this summer. My body's ready. Okay, Margot Robbie, you know, she's going to do a something different, because listen, Babylon, that movie was a mess, but she's coming back. She's got a hit on her hands with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she do with Barbie. Also, Issa Rae is in his multiple Barbies, multiple Kens, but they've been censoring themselves on Margot Robbie's character. But apparently there's going to be other Barbies in the film as well. So we'll see what happens there. As far as music goes, Doja Cat, or as I used to call her, Doja Scat, long story, is no longer making pop music. She said she's focused on rap music. I don't know how I feel about this, but she said that her raps have been, she said, what was the way she described it? Mid and corny. No comment. But apparently this is a thing. She's really, apparently, you know, trying to go full rap now. She wants to focus on different music. She's bored with pop music. We'll see. We'll see. In other music news, Taylor Swift and Joe Alwell have broken up. her and Joe broke up. Taylor Swift and Joe, they broke up. They was together for 6 years, but apparently it's an amicable split. It's nothing negative. They're still friends. Everything's all good. There's a lot of suspicions on what this means for Taylor. I'm kind of like, I just listened to Midnight's now one new album because Midnight's was all about her and his love affair, which, let me just say, as a Swiftie, was great music, but it's just like, damn. I'm happy that it's a nice breakup because normally her breakups typically are dramatic or, just drama. And it's not necessarily her fault. It's just the way that things are. So, remember the Calvin Harris situation? My God. But it's interesting because with Joe, it seemed like they was getting close to, I don't know, wedding bells potentially. I mean, he was writing a lot of the songs. He got a Grammy from being one of the co-writers of one of her songs. I mean, they had a nice little situation going, but look, that's a long time, 6 years, man. That's damn, I always think when a couple break up after like 5 years, I'm always feeling like, damn, because it's like by 5 years, you would think you know a person enough where you can really create a real bond. But apparently, I guess they grew apart, which is sad. But also, Hollywood dating is different from everyday people dating because a lot of times they're not spending that much time with each other to get to know each other anyway. So sometimes it's just like a good look. Like they go to a couple of award shows together. They may do a little summer vacation, but most of the time they're doing all types of projects and things. And they're seeing a lot of people and things. So it's different. When I think about my marriage, wow, I'm saying my marriage, it's real. I was very big on having time to be at home and to be with my husband and us to really spend time together. We spend a lot of time together. Like I work a lot from home. There's days when he works from home and cooking and, we do a lot together. Which is why sometimes when I go to events, people are like, where's your husband? Like I have to have parental supervision. Well, a lot of it is because we spend so much time in the house and everywhere else that we, when I go to these media events, number one, he can't stand half of the people in the room because he's like, oh, these people are fake. And he's right. Most of them are fake, but I have to go for work and he doesn't have to go for that. So he's like, look, just come home and tell me what it's like. So a lot of times that's my time to be with my friends, to catch up with people, my network. And then, I come home to a great man that's doing his thing. So it's very, it's a good balance. And I think sometimes, that's important. I always told people, and I say this with no disrespect, but I do think people should have a balance in relationships. You should have friends and you should have your husband or your lover, or your spouse or whomever. You should have a distinction. I think sometimes I hear people say, oh, my husband's my best friend. My husband is not my best friend. My husband's my husband. That's a different title to me. I could be wrong. Like, should your lover be a friend to you? Yeah. But that's a different role. And they are a friend, but they're a friend with other things connected to that. There's other, obligations and spiritual bonding connection that's different. I just think sometimes when people put all the roles on one person, that is when relationships explode. So I hear people say stuff like, oh, my man, he's the father I never had. He's the this, he's the that, he's the that. That's too much power. And I'm not talking about control and submission. I'm just saying that's too much responsibility on someone's shoulders, and sometimes it can be suffocating. So I love the fact that my husband is just my husband. He's not my best friend. He's not the brother. He's not the father. He's not the, whatever, because he doesn't need to play all those roles. In my life, I have people that play those roles. And even if some people are not in those roles, like, I have a stepdad, but I don't, my biological father, who my mother was previously married to, he passed away. We didn't have the best relationship. We weren't that close, but, it's a difference, I don't have a grandmother anymore, which is sad, but I do have people that mirror grandma-like spirit. And you have folks that are in your life that fill in other roles. And I just think that you shouldn't put all of those roles on one person, because then it creates unhealthy dynamic where that person can't just be the lover because he has to be the provider or she has to be, the counselor. Like, you can't put that much responsibility on one person. It's just not fair. So that's my understanding of it. That's how I view it, in my opinion. And what do I know? Maybe there's some people that like that, but when I think about certain folks that give their partner that much of a role, if you spend all that time together and there's no other dynamics and ways of thinking, and it does become suffocating. I think that's what happens with some certain celebrities, where I just feel like they don't go out with their friends, they don't have any homies or anything, and they just spend all this time with one person. You spend all that time with one person, and there's no time breaks, there's nothing. Y'all gonna eventually get on each other's nerves. I'm just telling you. Y'all gonna get on each other's nerves, bitch. Y'all gonna be like, okay, first 3 days, 4 days might be cute, but then eventually you're just gonna be just irritable. I think about previous relationships that I was in where I just was like up against the wall, against a lot of things, a lot of people. I was just like, it's us versus everybody, that Bonnie and Clyde type of love. And you think that shit is cute. And then as time passed, you be like, damn, you ain't got nothing else to do? You just all up on me. You ain't got nothing. You ain't got no career. You ain't got no goals. It can be suffocating sometimes. So I do think you should mix it up, but just putting it out there. So as far as movies go, let me just say this real quick. As a millennial who has black parents, I have to have a very uncomfortable conversation over the weekend with, a lot of millennials are having uncomfortable conversations. I don't know how I have to process this, but what does it look like to ask your mom, have you ever heard of Freaknik? And if so, did you ever participate in this Freaknik that is going down, that went down in the 90s? Because when I think about the time in which I was of a young age of like 6 or 7, did you go out there to those parties? Because there's a documentary coming out, and it seems like there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be on camera at Freaknik. So I'm just curious what the energy was, because before I see this, I just need to know, was my mother in it? There's a lot of people that's going to have to ask this question in the next couple of weeks, because Hulu is putting out a Freaknik documentary to talk about the rise and fall of Freaknik, which was this big black social gathering that was kind of like Girls Going Wild, but for black people. Y'all remember Girls Going Wild? Remember Girls Going Wild with the little island music? Dun, 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 and it was flashed. You could never see the actual titties because they were always covering it up on the commercials, but it was just a bunch of people showing their titties, and they wanted you to buy the DVDs because it was this wild of just girls flashing for cameras. And it was called Girls Go Wild. It was mostly white girls though, but they would be like at New Orleans or something, and they were getting beads. They would just flash them. And that was the days of TV where they used to show commercials. That's why I don't understand why everybody out here acting like back in the day everything was so wholesome. Listen, there was BT Uncut. Okay, y'all remember that? White girls, that little song, White Girls. What's that one? Pussy popping on a handstand, Ludacris. Remember that song? Tip Drill, Nelly. Oh, there was a couple of them little naughty songs that used to be on BT Uncut. But there used to be those commercials promoting the call lines. You remember those call lines? They used to say, call now. And I would call trying to be funny. I would never run up the bill because I never spent money, but I used to call and prank call people. Remember when prank calling was a thing? Like crank yankers, the people that used to prank call people and stuff. Yeah, those were the days. Ricky Smiley's morning show, he used to call people and prank people, and he used to like put on a different voice and things. Those were the days. I miss those days. I miss the days of prank calling people with a landline phone. Or when you used to be on a landline phone, for those who, look, if he don't know what a landline phone, he too young for you. She too young if she don't know what a landline phone is. No, but I remember when I was little, I used to have a landline phone, and I thought I was popping because we used to have the cordless one, and it would die. And I used to be pissed because I would miss my call. But I used to get on the landline, and I would stand there, and then you was on the phone too late when your mom would get on the phone, or whomever would be on the phone, be like, y'all still on the phone talking? I'm like, damn, I'm getting embarrassed. I gotta get off the phone. Gotta call you later. Bye. I used to be like, damn, you gonna just interrupt my phone? Like, you just gonna pick up the phone and hear it? Or I remember my brothers used to do this thing where they used to take the cord out and then put their hand over the phone, put the cord back in so they could hear the call, but put their hand over it to listen, to eavesdrop on the conversation. Oh my God. I used to do that shit too. It used to be the days. But anyway, nostalgia overload. But the Freaknik though, I need to know questions about this documentary. Hulu about to put this out. I look forward to watching it. I hope I don't see anybody that are familiar, but black millennials, start having those conversations with your parents today. Just be like, Mom, What is Freaknik? And was you a part of it? And will you be in this camera? Because there's some people worried right now. Look like y'all was doing too much, but y'all want to talk about kids nowadays. Kids nowadays. Look at y'all nowadays, okay? Anywho, Netflix. So I watched Monique's My Name is Monique. It was incredible. It was a 1 hour special on Netflix. I hope you all watch it. I'm not going to tell it. I think more people need to watch it first before I speak too much on it. But people have been critical of it. Some people love it like I do. Some folks were just like, oh, it should have just been a bunch of jokes. And she just, yeah. I felt like it was really mature. I thought that it was a full circle moment. And I thought it was a perfect antithesis to Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock's type of humor lately. That it was just such a very thoughtful, intentional special. And she was very open and vulnerable in a way that I didn't see coming. And it reminds me of Nathaniel. Remember that comedian Carmichael who did his own special and he kind of told some things about himself and revealed some things? Monique does the same in his documentary. I won't tell it unless you already know, but she was incredible. Very funny. One thing that annoyed me was that people kept saying, oh, she curses like a sailor. So y'all are now acting like black comedians don't be cursing in their specials. She cursed way too much because she's a woman. It's sexism because men curse like sailors, go real, real low and real, real down dirty. And one of the things I loved about Monique was that Monique really had this Richard Pryor type of energy about her comedy. Like she was very vulgar, but very opinionated, very lively, very, very. And so that's why I'm just like, how is everybody acting like they're like chastising her for profanity in a comedy special? Like, get out of here. I definitely think the Netflix element made the show better because of the fact that you could see that she was really able to let her hair down and really get loose. She looks good, by the way. And she's from Baltimore, another Baltimore legend. See, Monique's from Baltimore. Look at all this Baltimore energy. But she was very full of life, very, very, very energetic. And the story was very captivating at the end. Don't want to tell it, but it's only an hour long. So if you're on Netflix, don't know what to watch this. It's called My Name is Monique. Check it out. So in TV this week, Bel-Air just be taking my heart out. Listen, I'm obsessed with the Carlton Banks character. I say this every week, but my goodness. The cocaine, the drama, he just does it all. Power Book 2, man, is building up. I'm really liking this season of Power Book 2. I love how they're building up on the characters and the characters are finally getting their own narratives. I mean, they already had narratives, but I love the buildup of these characters. Baddies West is Baddies West. You know what, Amanda? Let me tell you right now, girl. Y'all gonna stop judging me for watching Baddies West. Because let me tell you, if y'all gonna sit up here and watch Love is Blind and watch all these other trash-ass shows, which I don't watch. I don't watch Love is Blind, y'all. Don't ask me about it. I don't watch it. Look, I only have so much time in my week to watch TV. And so I have to be wise with my time. I can't watch a bunch of TV because I'm too busy making news. But I'm selective. This Love is Blind stuff just don't... You know what it is? I can't watch too much straight TV. Or I'm not into cishet dating love shows. Unless it's giving me flavor of love energy where I can get a key. I'm not really into it. I'm just tired of all these straight, super straight love shows. I'm bored. Y'all are boring. Like Bobby, I Love You, Purr. That's real TV right there. That's real funny shit on Zeus Network, okay? Those are shows I watch. I'm just not impressed with just seeing a bunch of straight people on TV every day. And it's also the type of people. Like they got these corny black men who are so anti-black. They are snow bunny chasers. I'm not fans. I'm just tired. It's just the same corny shit. And it's like, ugh. It's the same thing. Guys with abs and bodies. Girls who don't know what they're doing in the Louvre. Or straight women who are like, oh, I really want this to work, but you know it's not going to work. I'm just tired of that. It's the same redundant shit. Don't y'all get tired? Are the straights tired? Are y'all tired? Because the gays are. The straights, are y'all tired? Are y'all tired of seeing yourselves on TV? Or seeing yourselves portrayed the same way? Because it's the same show. It's the same scenarios. I don't even watch the show, but I can tell you what the scenarios be all the time. It's always the girl on the show who wants more than what she really can bargain for. It's always the guy on the show that wants way beyond his means. He wants a bad 5-star, but he's really a 2-star. You got the guy on the show who's Mr. Right, apparently. He acts like he's the best guy, but low-key, he got some very fucked up, problematic ways. But on paper, he good, but he really a sociopath. You got the girl on the show who's like, look, I'm just trying to have a good time with everybody's man, but deep down inside, she got some daddy issues or some real internalized issues that she ain't really addressed. Like, I don't want to typecast, but it's the same types of characters on each of these shows. And at some point, someone's got to put their foot down and say, enough's enough. I'm not going to watch this shit. But it's just something I've personally have noticed, for sure. But I am going to talk about Succession and this recent episode. I was not ready at all. When I watched this last night with my guests and my folks during that Easter dinner that, I didn't get to eat until later, I was sitting there like, wait a minute. Y'all really about to kill somebody like that in the show? This is really happening? Like, I thought it was a joke. Like, something, like the whole time I was watching the episode, because I'm trying not to tell it. Because it hasn't been out for 24 hours, so I ain't trying to spoil it. But I'm watching this and I'm just like, well, first of all, let me just say this. There is a death. I won't tell you who died, but I'm gagging. I've been gagging for the past 12 hours since I've seen this episode. I'm still in a state of shock. I don't know what to make of it. Because I'm just sitting here looking like this show had taken a completely different loop. Like, I thought I knew how this show was going to play out. And it just completely took me for a loop. I ain't going to hold you. You're not prepared. You're not ready. And you're thinking it's fake. Like, the whole time I'm like, this is not how this ends. This is not real. No, this is a gag. Nope. Yeah. They're trying to get the Emmy, y'all. I'm just letting everybody know at the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, pack it up. Succession's winning Best Drama. It's going to win again. It's going out on a perfect score. It's ending. Shara Snook, girl, go ahead and put yourself in the lead drama category for actress. The rest of y'all can fight for supporting. It's a wrap. It's essentially going to win everything. Or they're going to be close to win everything. I don't know what to tell y'all, but it's already won Best Drama in my head. I don't see another show coming close. Game of Thrones, all the other shows, I don't know what to tell y'all, but Succession is going to win. It is. Because, I mean, come on. Because I'm just sitting here looking like, what y'all gonna do? Succession won last year. Succession won in 2020. It's gonna win in 2023. So, I know The Crown came out. Buy a Crown. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. Succession's gonna win 3 out of 4 of its eligibility. It did not win the first season, but the second and the third season won, and the fourth and final season will win Best Drama. That's all I'm gonna say. Watch this latest episode if you follow. And if you have not been watching Succession, y'all need to watch Succession. It's juicy as fuck. I'm so happy I took that time and invested in watching it. I caught up a couple, like a year or so ago during the pandemic, but something just told me while the show was still fresh. I think before season 3 came out, I watched the first 2 seasons, and something just said, you should watch this show. You might like it. And I love it. So, I'm sad it's ending, but it's a great show. I highly recommend it. So, yeah. Well, that is everything from me this week. I mean, there's a lot going on. What's on the horizon? Who's going to drop out in the next episode of Dragon Ball Z as far as the mayoral race? I want to see what's going to happen there. I'm also curious to see what's going to happen in other places. Like I said to you all, for those who don't forget, I'm really serious. Now, somebody asked me what I thought about Drake's new song. My bestie, Amanda said it best, which is basically Drake's been making the same music, y'all, has not been evolving. And we need to just really take that seriously, understand that. But he has not been evolving. He's making the same music, rescuing people from the club. What are we talking about, Drake? Drake, if you don't grow up, I'm just saying. Oh, and let me sidebar, because somebody did ask me this. I did not want to miss, I don't want to miss you all's problems. But one of the things that I want people to know, and this is important, because this is really important. And I do want this to be known. This Marcus Houston situation. I had said something on Twitter. So Marcus Houston has done a recent interview on Unsung on TV One, and he talked about meeting, his now wife when she was 17, but said that he got married to her at 19, but he didn't pursue anything with her at 17. He just met her then. And I had to take a moment because I was just kind of like, I'm confused. He said that he married the girl at 19 when he was in his late 30s, like 38, I think. And he claims he first met her at 17. Y'all, that is called grooming. And I also want to be clear that he's not the only one in Hollywood that's been doing it. And I said, look very closely to when some of your other faves, quote unquote, met. So of course people said, you tried it. Just say Beyonce and Jay-Z. Let me say this about Beyonce and Jay-Z in the situation. I wasn't just talking about them, but since we're on the topic, let's have the conversation. Jay-Z was 30-something years old when he met Beyonce at 18. But numbers can say it could be between 17 and 18 years old. It's weird because we don't know exactly when that's going to happen or when that happened. But to think about it this way is a lot. And I think that's really weird because it's just like, why are you... So there's been a lot being said. And I'm curious to see, makes you rethink things. Like, 18 years old? Did they really mean 18? You just waited for her to turn 18 before you talked to her when you was 30. Like, I'm not looking that back. I've never looked that back. I mean, I can't myself, but just to see other people, just a lot of food for thought. Just start looking back at some of these relationships in Hollywood and be like, y'all met at 18? You mean he been seeing you and just waiting for you to be 18 and shoot your shot? It's a little bit of a red flag for me personally. But what do I know? Sometimes love is love, and that's what they say, love is love. But let me get off of here. But other than that, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with the Tennessee 3, how this progressed, because now, Vice President Kamala Harris is planning to meet with them. I'm looking forward this week to seeing what's going on with the Philly mayoral race. Like I said, who's going to drop out, what's going to happen there. Budget hearings are taking place, as you know, in Philadelphia City. Looking forward to seeing how Chloe's new album ranks on the Billboard charts, because that's finally coming out, because we need to see where those numbers are. Was it worth it? Was it not? Was all this anticipation and build up worth it or not? We'll find out very soon in these Billboard charts. And we'll just keep eating our way through Philly. I'm going to be lightly eating my way through Philly because even though I've recovered, I need to just take it easy this week. So, I'm going to be out and about, but let me tell y'all right now, it's not going to be the same this week for starters. But we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind 2 days because I'm trying to repair y'all, but we'll see. But as always, be well and be best. Ernestly Speaking is recorded in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. To stay up to date with the latest on the show, follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Mr. Ernest Owens. Use the hashtag Ernestly Speaking to tell me what you thought about this episode, and check out my website at ernestowens.com.